After Donald Trump's crackdown on USAID, sensational revelations are out on devious plots to topple elected governments through the US government agency that has primarily spent a lot of money for engineering regime changes over the last many years. Monday on The Right Stand, we showed you how the present interim government under Mohammad Yunus is actually engaged in international lobbying efforts and sought international support to stay on in power. These claims are not unfounded. Former US diplomat Mike Benz, in an interview to Tucker Carlson, alluded to the regime change in Bangladesh as a plot orchestrated by the West, mainly the USA via USAID. He said, and I quote, "Let's say it is vital to the US national interest to build a military base in Bangladesh to counter China, but the Bangladeshi Prime Minister refuses. Our foreign policy planners then decide that regime change is necessary, quote, all options to destabilize the country." WikiLeaks, meanwhile, has exposed that international media NGO Internews Network received $472.6 million from USAID and the Soros ecosystem. Internews Network works under the guise of journalistic development undertaken by a shell company based in the US. Internews Network has a Bharat link too, which is an alleged media literacy program. This India arm has on its board some top journalists, activists, known only to promote a one-sided and largely anti-PM Modi narrative and anti-current establishment narrative. The US has granted over $270 million to George Soros' organization in the last 15 years. An organization partnered with Soros' Open Society Foundation got the money via the USAID program. BJP MP Nishikant Dubey raised this matter in Parliament on Monday and asked quite a few questions to the Congress party. Nishikant Dubey alleged that the US government agency has primarily spent money for bringing about regime changes over the years. Nishikant Dubey asked if the USAID had funded 5,000 crore rupees to the Soros Open Society Foundation for dividing Bharat.
माननीय राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप बैठे और उन्होंने यूएस एड जो है वो कंप्लीट बंद कर दिया, इस आधार पर बंद कर दिया कि यूएस एड वर्षों से केवल भिन्न भिन्न सरकारों को गिराने के लिए ही अपना पैसा खर्चा करती है। कि यूएस एड ने ओपन सोसाइटी फाउंडेशन जॉर्ज सोरोस को 5,000 करोड़ रुपया भारत को टुकड़े करने के लिए दिया या नहीं दिया? यूएस एड और जॉर्ज सोरोस की ओपन सोसाइटी फाउंडेशन ने राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन और राजीव गांधी चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट को पैसा दिया कि नहीं दिया? तीसरा, ओवरसीज कांग्रेस के जो अध्यक्ष हैं सैम पित्रोदा साहब, उनको यूएसएड ने पैसा दिया या नहीं दिया? बांग्लादेश का जो पोषाहार है, जिसको कि यूनुस जो सीईओ है, वो जिसने कि बांग्लादेश में डेमोक्रेसी को बर्बाद किया, उसके साथ गांधी परिवार के क्या संबंध हैं? चौथा सवाल यह है कि राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन में जो विजय महाजन है, प्रधान जो उनकी संस्था है, उसको यूएसएड पैसा दे रही है कि नहीं दे रही है? आपने राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन में विजय महाजन को देश को टुकड़े करने के लिए रखा है या नहीं रखा है?
Meanwhile, the US State Department's former senior diplomat Mike Benz made more explosive revelations about how the online discourse around Prime Minister Narendra Modi was manipulated. This he said while speaking with the Sunday Guardian. Benz said that a campaign had been waged by biased elements present in the US foreign policy establishment against Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP during the time the 2019 general elections were being held in Bharat. The BJP recently mounted a fierce attack at the Soros Congress link. The BJP cited how Soros-funded organization OCCRP published anti-Bharat reports and the Congress used those reports to amplify that narrative. BJP cited how the OCCRP report on Pegasus, Brazilian Covaxin deal and the Hindenburg report were used by Congress to disrupt Parliament. Let's go across to our guest, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, political commentator and also scientist with us. Ambassador Deepak Vora should be joining us any moment now. Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, and Kamru Chaudhary, political analyst. My namaste, Jai Hind and Jai Bharat, gentlemen. So, direct foreign government-aided agencies' interference in Bharat's affairs, and that too to levels that perhaps have not been fathomable so far. Dr. Ranganathan, your thoughts first up.
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Look, there is absolutely no doubt that there are governments, there are states in this world, there are countries in this world who want ill of India, who want to destabilize India and want to break. They are prepared to spend millions, even tens, hundreds, possibly billions of dollars in order to achieve their aim. So yes, there is absolutely no doubt that US aid was from a web within a web within a web, funding perhaps dozens of Indian NGOs, media, journalists, activists, and so many other people with the express aim of destabilizing India, running a propaganda campaign, running fake narratives. Yes, there is no doubt about it. We've seen how one media house, NewsClick, was directly being funded by China, and it was actually holding China's can even during COVID. It was actually blatantly pro-China, and NewsClick is not the only media organization that is funded through China. There are others south of the Vindhyas, if you know what I mean. There are 2 points from here. Is our state weak? The question has to be answered in that context. And let me frame it for you. Very recently, the government of India, the state of India, denied giving visa to an American citizen, a communist, on some grounds that she was on some list and she has been opposing the CAA and so many other things. Even on humanitarian grounds, she was denied visa. While at the same time, the Indian state happily gives visa to an American citizen who is the most virulent anti-Indian person you can think of, who runs a media organization, who has been virulently anti-CAA, anti-Modi, anti-every sensible, logical policy of the last 11 years. Why this dichotomy? Is the state weak? Now let me tell you, come to the nub of the question. Anand, there is no doubt, as I already said, that there are hundreds of thousands of these kind of agents who are trying to destabilize India. The question is, why do we fear getting destabilized? As a country, if you fear the foreign hand, that means you fear using your own hands. That's the bottom line. If you fear anarchists, that means you are not strong enough to stop the anarchists from running amok on the streets. And let me give you the first example in 2014. If you remember when Barack Obama was coming, and that whole campaign, India, Hindutwas against Christians, that campaign ran, that we are attacking churches and everything, ran for 30 days. The Indian state was absolutely quiet. What transpired after 30 days? That each and every one of those instances was actually regular burglary or some kids who had thrown stone at the church. But who lost at the end? It was the government that lost, because that propaganda that was spread. Even Obama had to comment on it, that I expect the new BJP formed government or the Hindutva state not to actually trouble the Christians or the minorities. So is our state so weak so as to be destabilized by some deranged commie elements who are funded by Soros, who is again funded by USAID? That is the question we need to ask.
Tuhin Sinha, would you like to respond?
Namaste, Anand. Namaste, everybody. There are reasonable grounds at this point of time to infer that the Congress party has been acting as a puppet of the deep state. Now, the only complication over here is that many of these funds operate via, and there is a complex web of channels through which the funds eventually reach the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation or the Rajiv Gandhi Charitable Trust or to Sam Petroda. But the fact is, the way Mike Benz, a former State Department diplomat, has exposed the practices of USAID, especially its involvement in perpetrating trouble in Bangladesh, how they misused soft power, how they purposely went after rap groups and encouraged rap groups through funding to, ignite rebellion among the population of Bangladesh. It certainly has ramifications for India, and India is extremely conscious and India is extremely cognizant of this challenge. This is one of the reasons why in the last few years, many hundreds of foreign, NGOs which had been receiving unbridled funds from abroad have been blocked. And I think going ahead...
But they continue to have large offices. Tuhin Sinha, apologies for interrupting you. They continue to have large offices at the heart of the national capital. And what they have done, they are no longer NGO. They have incorporated themselves as companies and they are still routing the money into the country. It's happening right under the noses of the establishment. It's happening.
It is work in progress. They figure a way out. We figure a way back to curtail them, and that is one of the reasons why they have not managed to spread their tentacles too far, because there were 2 or 3 occasions in the last 4 or 5 years, the CAA protests, the concerted attempts to demonize the Indian vaccine, and number 3, the way Rahul Gandhi has very purposely went after dividing the country on the basis of caste. These, we believe, do have foreign sponsors. These, we believe, do have foreign brains, acting behind Rahul Gandhi. And I think, at this point of time, Rahul Gandhi and the Congress Party should come clean on all the funds received by the Rajiv Gandhi Charitable Trust, by Rajiv Gandhi Foundation.
Why would they come clean, Tuhin Sinha? Whose job is it to ensure that the country's interests are protected? Those sitting in opposition, or those who are in government?
Absolutely, it is the job of the.
And if you are monitoring किसका पैसा कहाँ अंदर आ रहा है, and if you believe you know, अच्छा चिट्टा खोल दीजिए. Arrest them, put them behind bars. Here, those whom you are accusing on local charges of corruption, they are out on bail for the last 11 years.
The only complication over here is that money laundering channels are never easy to probe, and the probe might take many years. But the very fact that the leader of the opposition and the principal opposition party is under scanner, I think, there is some amount of responsibility on the opposition party also to make its dealings with, Soros companies clean.
My simple point is they are not hiding their meetings. They are going and sitting right with those people who are engaging. The Open Society Foundation head was there marching along with Mr. Rahul Gandhi during the Bharat Jodo Yatra. My question to you, sir, is what is the government doing anything about it? Because at the end of the day, these people are not interested in a Rahul Gandhi, a Congress party, a Prime Minister Modi or a BJP. They are interested only in furthering their national interests at the cost of Bharat. At the end of the day, people who will be affected, nation that will be affected is Bharat. So, if people are doing something out of desperation and political compulsion, you've got to catch them. Who's got the power? Who's got the mandate? Who's being elected? Who's present in more than 20 states and union territories across the country? Tuhin Sinha, आप मुझे बताइए आज की तारीख में is the NDA stronger than never before? Is it not? Across Bharat.
That is the reason we have.
And still you have not been able to shut these people and send them packing back to those boroughs where they came from.
That is the reason we have successfully managed to neutralize all their insidious narratives, all their insidious agendas. The arrest is something, like I said, which requires a fair amount of investigation, which in money laundering cases, which in cases where you have layers and layers of, exterior sources through which money is hidden or money is, siphoned off, it becomes slightly difficult. But yes, that is something that is work in progress.
Well, Dr. Ranganathan, allow me to please go across to Kamru Chaudhary and Ambassador Deepak Vora and then come back to you, please. Kamru Chaudhary. Namaste, Ambassador Deepak Vora.
Namaste,
After
namaste.
Kamru Chaudhary, coming to you, sir. Yes.
Yeah, basically, Anand, you must understand that this has become a very quite unsubstantiated claims made by the deep state Hindutva in India to vilify the Congress and the Congress leadership by making such claims. You must understand the context of that.
Again, apologies for interrupting you. Mike Benz has got nothing to do with Hindutva or the Indian deep state.
No, I'm coming to that.
He is a US State Department guy who said that the USAID has spent this much money in 2019 unsettling. And sir, has anybody put a gun to Mr. Rahul Gandhi's head to walk along with the Open Society head of India during Bharat Jodo? दोस्ती है, निभा रहे हैं, तो accept it. At the cost of Bharat, that's the big question.
USAID is a US government funded organization which is operating since 1961 during the time of Richard Nixon. Till date, some 60-70 years later today, you somehow or the other, because Mr. Trump has become the president of the US, you have got one deep state agent that I called him, who runs the X, Elon Musk. They feel that USAID is funding terror organization across the world. It is funding organization to destabilize democracies across the world. Agreed, that's what America does. US does. It has done in Afghanistan, it has done in Iraq, Iran. Everywhere, wherever they are possible,
So
it is
doing it there.
But the point is that,
and if they cannot do it in Bharat. And if you disagree with such an action, then will you agree with those who are hand in glove with them in Bharat, sir?
That's what I'm telling you. I'm coming to the very important vital point. Last 3 years, up to 2023, India received around 55,500 crores from foreign agencies. They are funding Indian NGOs in India. Out of which all those NGOs that you are mentioned, who are supposedly, according to you and the ecosystem, linked with destabilizing India, they have received funds. And all those funds have been scrutinized by the FCRA of Narendra Modi government. Point number one. Point number two, in 2018, Narendra Modi government brought an act in the parliament in which it says that no foreign funds being received by a political party in India can be ever scrutinized. So the point here is that you remove that act, you repeal that act, come into the investigation, let us see who received how much of foreign funding, how much did RSS, the world largest NGO, receive from overseas organization which are hell-bent on dividing India on religious and hatred lines.
No, that's a claim that you make.
No,
that's a claim that you make. That's a claim that you make.
That's what I
but
said
pictorial proof, pictorial proof and evidence. Who Mr. Rahul Gandhi meets on Bharat in Bharat, and during a Bharat Jodo Yatra, he is walking along with those who are today being accused the world over of or working with the Todo agenda. Whichever nation it comes, not just Bharat. The other thing, what does he do when he goes to the US? He sits and has a cup of tea with the person who has gone and elected representative in the US government, who is only peddling the Islamist agenda, who's gone. See, you know it is Ilhan Omar. So you also know it is Ilhan Omar. So what I am asking,
part
sir,
of the US congressman delegation that met
Kamru Chaudhary, no, what was that entire congressional delegation? Were all of them not related or somehow connected with the Open Society? Did all of them, don't all of them aren't they part somewhere or the other involved with some organization connected with USAID?
Allow the funds from Open Society to come into
sir,
India?
please don't point fingers elsewhere. My question to you, sir, is to what level can you go to settle a political score or come back to political relevance? Can you go? Are you ready to go and pawn the nation's interests at the hands of someone whose only priority is to further their own interests? So much so that they will give patent tanks to the enemy in 1971. They will provide all sorts of cover to the likes of Yahya Khan and the others when they wanted to further an agenda. Because why? For the last 7 decades, sir, the US has wanted an airbase in that region just to counter China. Do we not know that?
Accepted.
Do we not know that? Do we not know that? And if that nation decides that if you don't allow me to set up a base here, I'm going to destabilize you and I'm going to throw you out, then should we not take a position where we say no matter what, we will not take one naya paisa of dirty money from that nation? Dirty money because it's with a dirty intention for our country.
Wait. Today only 6 congressmen have asked the US administration to investigate on claims on the investigation that was done against Adani in the US, because it seems according to them there is a wrong indictment of Adani by the Department of Justice in the US. It's a fact. So how do we accept that those 6 congressmen are not acting on behalf of Adani? The question remains on the other side.
If there is a wrong, sir, as an Indian national, you should be turning around and saying that a wealth creator from my country was falsely accused. But you are upset that, oh my God, Adani will be given a clean chit. The same thing, and this is despite Mr. Gautam Adani and his companies making huge investments in Congress-ruled states in our country and in the federal ecosystem. So that's what I'm trying to say. You are pushing and peddling a narrative where someone is dictating, saying, sir, this is what happens. जो पैसा देगा उसके लिए आपको dance करना पड़ेगा. So if you have taken money from them, you are going to dance to their tunes. Imagine this is when you are not in power. Tomorrow when you come to power, what will they make you do? What all will they make you do? These are the same, no, Kamru Chaudhary ji, please understand, these are the same voices who said that Moderna and the other mRNA vaccines are better than our vaccines. They wanted every average Indian to spend more than 7,500 rupees per vaccine. And they wanted to say, what were the terms? They said, accept these terms, where they will give you only the vaccine free, but you'll have to pay 2,500 rupees for the syringe and 4,000 rupees for the cooler. This was what was being peddled, saying this is the best vaccine, by these very voices who are backed by these very entities. Now, please tell me, sir, how was that not compromising our own country's interests? They questioned the vaccines made by Bharatiya scientists. 275 crore vaccines as any other nation given. 9 crore vaccines free. Donated, sir. And no, not one of them came up and said, I am proud what our scientists have done. None of these voices who walked with those Todo forces. That's my point, sir. You are willing to sell off the country. And this is nothing but a manifestation of Assam bhi gaya, Ladakh bhi gaya, jane do. So it continues, sir. Respectfully. Ambassador Deepak Ora. Sir, 1 minute.
Sir, thank you very much. I've been listening very intently as always. Whenever you are speaking, I learn so much, and greetings to all the colleagues who are there. I've served in the United States. So let me just begin with two things. I don't wish to comment on this political leader whose photograph you are showing. No one has ever accused him of being very intelligent or to be able to discriminate between what he should do and what he shouldn't do. Sir, I have just returned two events very quickly. I've returned from the Kumbh Mela. I was there on the day when the Prime Minister was there. We took a dip. There were over 2 crore people. Not one person asked me my caste. No one asked me my religion. I met people there from France. I speak French. I met people from the United States. I speak American, also known as English. And they were telling me what an amazing experience it was. Nobody worried about anybody's religion. Nobody was concerned. They were just blessing each other, bathing, etc. And it was spotlessly clean. The second thing was the Aero Show in Bengaluru. I've just returned, sir. Sir, the largest delegations were the United States and Russia. They want the Indian market. They want to sell their stuff there. The Germans were there, the French were there, everybody else was there. This is the Bharat, sir, that has been built by people like you, sir. Now, I compliment you, sir, and your channel. You have built this Bharat despite all the dooms, the naysayers, etc., etc. Now, sir, let me tell you one other thing. About USAID, since we were talking about it. Will you give me another minute, sir?
Yeah, please, take your time.
Some of your colleagues might be interested. I'm ambassador in a particular country. Their president is visiting India. We are traveling in a plane together from Delhi to Agra. And he tells me a little story. In his country, there is this shepherd moving with a certain number of sheep moving across the countryside. And a fellow pulls up in a fancy vehicle with lots of antenna poking out of it and says, "Listen, shepherd, I'll give you 3 pieces of vital information. I'll take one of your sheep." The shepherd just shrugs his shoulder. So this guy says, you have 374 sheep. They have an 18% fat content. And in the New York Stock Exchange, sheep meat is trading for so much. So this guy smiles at the fellow and says, "Are you from USAID?" And the guy says, "Why? I mean, you were supposed to give me one of your animals in return for this information." He says, "First, you are telling me how many sheep I have. I count every morning. Then you tell me the fat content. Nobody is interested. Then you tell me the New York Stock Exchange price. I'm not interested at all. But how do I know you're from USAID? Because the creature you picked up is a dog, not a sheep." Now, that is the kind of thing that this president told me while we were traveling in the... I thought it was very funny. But the reality is, sir, we are just too strong. And I do hope that colleagues from across the political spectrum will realize, sir, that India is now not going to be messed around. You know how many we've cancelled, these NGOs and so on, run by politicians, which I refer to as no good organization. And now we are looking to see, ever since the banking system has come onto its own, 6,000 digital transactions every second. Where is all this corruption going to come from? It's not going to be as easy as it was in the past. So may I just request, through you, millions of people watch your show. They hang on to every word, sir, that Mr. Narasimhan, that you say. May I just request all of them, keep the faith, have the confidence. India is unstoppable in its march forward.
There is no dithering away or denying what you are saying, Ambassador Deepak Vora, but along with keeping the faith, we also need the people who are responsible for attempting to destabilize our country being punished. They have to be brought to account. The government of the day cannot just play politics. It cannot be a politics of optics. There has to be absolute result that there is no tolerance for not just the corrupt, but also those who are trying to pawn off our country and its interests just so that they can peddle their political narrative and somehow crawl their way back onto that chair. That's the biggest issue, sir. The issue is that you can make allegations, but prove them, take them to task and make sure that they are gone away. That's what we do with Watts, right? They make sure we don't want them because they make a beautiful face ugly. A beautiful nation cannot be depicted as ugly because of a few Watts, sir.
And today, the Prime Minister at the Artificial Intelligence Summit, the activity summit in Paris, which he co-chaired, what has he said? He's talked about the advantages of that. He's also talked about deep fakes, and to be very, very careful, sir. I'm sitting with you. This is artificial intelligence. I prefer to call it engineered intelligence because artificial intelligence is no substitute for natural stupidity. A lot of our people here to suffer that particular affliction. But this engineered intelligence India is number one. There is no question, sir. The French president, I don't know if you heard his interview with an Indian journalist. Right. He said, you produce 1 million engineers every year, more than Europe and the United States put together. This is the future. This is our hope, sir. These people will be outed. They will be swept into the dustbin of history. The people of India will rise again. They've given Narendra Modi a 3rd term, maybe the BJP a 4th or a 5th. I don't don't know how many terms they'll get, as long as the national interest is protected. And I, as an Indian, and I'm saying this as an Indian, sir, I'm saying this as a son. By the way, my family is originally from Ghazni. We are Pashtuns, but we are Sanatani, Hindu Pashtuns. May I just say, sir, I have never felt safer with a government in my country, 53 years in diplomacy and counting, than I do with the government headed by Narendra Modi, sir.
Dr. Ranganathan?
I think much as I respect the views of all the three, my fellow panelists, I think we have to talk of what the reality is. I think we will be doing great disservice to our country if we brush over what the reality is. The reality is that for the last 10 years, there is no getting around it. We are a weak state. When my good friend Tuhin Sinha talks about that, yes, the state is combating these anarchists and urban Naxal, I want to ask him, has the state ever compensated all those businessmen and women who lost to the tune of 3,500 crores every day for the whole year during the farm laws protest when Delhi was laid under siege and highways were blocked? Who compensated for them? Who lost? In a macabre way, when you have this foreign direct investment of Soros and USAID coming into India, at least that is adding to the GDP. Here, the money was being taken away. And let's not talk about the media propaganda. At least 100 times more propaganda happens on this soil that is funded by the opposition state governments that controls the press in their states. So let's not beat about the bush. Let me give you one example, which is very pertinent.
Right.
Sterlite plant, copper plant that used to take care of 40% of India's copper needs was closed down.
Right.
Every person, including the present governor of Tamil Nadu, said this happened because of foreign hand, foreign interference. But the fact of the matter is that the Madras High Court upheld the closure of the plant. The Supreme Court upheld the Madras High Court judgment. So our state has acted. Let's not blame other people for our inadequacies. I always apply the Anderson razor, which is I don't blame Warren Anderson for escaping. I blame our people for letting him escape.
Point well made. We are way over on the show, but Tuhin Sinha, final word, 30 seconds. Sir.
You know, my friend Anand, I appreciate his views, but he tends to be utopian at times. It's practically unviable, like he says, to compensate everybody who was a victim of the farmer protest. But, you know, you need to realize that over the years, the country has matured to the extent that every time Rahul Gandhi indulges in an indiscretion, he's punished back home by the voters, whether it is an assembly election or whatever. This person is given to...
Respectfully, I've got to wind up, and I'll tell you, electoral defeat does not equal punishing people for working against the interest of our country, and that is not a punishment for corruption. My humble request is march on, let the nation march on to progress. We are unstoppable, but we must stop those who are trying to stop us. That's what I want to say. I'm going to wind up on that note. Thank you very, very much.